Dear YouTube, so one of the weird things I like to do in my spare time is to sort famous people into the houses of Harry Potter. Sort of like I'm a famous muggle sorting hat. Don't judge me. Don't stop it. This habit was born of a brief moment of insecurity when I was sorted into Hufflepuff on Pottermore when I was sure I was going to be a Ravenclaw. In that moment, I started thinking of all the people that I really admired and what houses I thought they would be in. My main objective was to find amazing people who I thought would be sorted into Hufflepuff so I could feel better about my life. It was selfish. I admit it. As an activist, a lot of the people I admire are activists, and seeing as it's MLK Day, I thought I would sort some of Martin Luther King Jr.'s contemporaries into Harry Potter houses for your viewing enjoyment. Yeah. So I could pretty much do this all day because I love a lot of activists and I really do this in my spare time. But instead, I'm just going to pick one person for each house and tell you why I think they should be in that house. Okay, go. Gryffindor! So for Gryffindor, I picked Elizabeth Eckford, who is this really cool civil rights activist that not a lot of people know. So in order to tell you about Elizabeth Eckford, I have to tell you about the Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine were 9 students who went to Little Rock Central High School, which was one of the first schools to be integrated in the United States of America. Of course, there was a lot of protests against this, and they thought they might be in danger, so there was a lot of scheduling and planning on how to get all the students into the school safely. They had a date planned out, but at last moment, they decided to change that date because of certain things that were going on, and most of the students got the memo except for Elizabeth Eckford. She had to walk this gauntlet to Little Rock Central High School all by herself, and instead of turning around and running and going back home and just giving in to all the protesters who were screaming at her and throwing things, she continued her walk to the school. I think it took a lot of bravery to be a high schooler and to face like a whole crowd of screaming adults. Like, these are grown ups screaming that they want you to die and that they're gonna hang you and lynch you, and that's really scary. And for you to face them anyway, I think it's so incredibly Gryffindor. Ravenclaw! Robert Paris Moses, or Bob Moses as a lot of people know him, was part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. This group was an amazing group of college students that was doing just incredible civil rightsy things all over the country. Again, really inspiring because they started so young and they were doing so much, and that's just so, I'm always inspired by youth activists because I'm a youth activist, and just yes. He did a lot of voter registration in the South, which was really risky back then, and his strong belief in Black people needing to have a say in their democratic processes led him to help form the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. This party really worked to hold the so-called liberal Democratic Party accountable to race issues. And in addition to that, he later ended up winning the MacArthur Fellowship Award, which is called by some the Genius Award. And he used the money he won from that award to create the Algebra Project. And the Algebra Project, if it's not evident by, his entire life story in the word algebra, was a project that helped minority, low-income youth become better at math. He was just really into education and civil rights, and it's just awesome. Slytherin. Okay, so I want to preface this by a lot of people call Slytherin the evil house. I don't think Slytherin is the evil house. I don't think any of the houses are good or evil. So when I say my candidate for the Slytherin house, I am in no way saying that he is evil. I am saying he is cunning, which is very necessary for movements to progress and grow and achieve the goals that they want to achieve. Okay, so my choice for Slytherin civil rights action leader person is James Bevel. James Bevel may be another name that you're not familiar with, but he's most well known for being a leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And he was a leader of this in conjunction connection with Martin Luther King Jr. He was a really big behind-the-scenes player in major moments of the Civil Rights Movement, like the 1963 Birmingham Children Crusades and the 1965 Selma's Voting Rights Movement. He helped organize a lot of the biggest marches of the entire era, and it took a lot of strategy. Hufflepuff! My choice for Hufflepuff is Ella Baker. She's another behind-the-scenes activist that not a lot of people might have known, but again was a big part of a lot of the movements during the era. Now, Ella Baker did like so much in her time, guys, and she worked with amazing contemporaries like MLK and Stokely Carmichael and Thurgood Marshall and W.E. Du Bois, and she was a major member in a lot of the civil rights groups such as the NAACP, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She was just like amazing all around. Ella Baker was very much a person of the people, and she was constantly talking to people and connecting them and building lasting relationships. She really believed that we had to go to the people and ask them what they needed and then work toward that goal. You can't be an advocate for the people if you don't listen to the people, and I think Ella Baker is one of those people who reminds you of that, not just through her words, but through the legacy of her actions. I think sometimes we think the characteristics of the houses are exclusive, that if you're cunning, you can't be brave, and if you're smart, you can't be sweet. Martin Luther King Jr. was cunning enough to lead an entire movement, was intelligent enough to pore over endless books of his contemporaries to find the best way to lead that movement, leading him to the civil disobedient actions of Gandhi, and he was brave enough to risk everything he had, including his life, for his people. But I think the defining quality of MLK's legacy is that when faced with the question of oppression and hatred and racism and destruction, the answer he thought was most appropriate was love. If that's not a Hufflepuff answer, then what is? Sincerely, Elle.